The Path from Employment to Debt in the Time of Charles Dickens by Arden Rose. My research question is, how did the pursuit of wealth turn into debt for some people, and what happened to the debtors? To answer the question, I first researched types of employment in the 1800s. Three important categories were mining, trading, and factory working. As cities began growing and populations multiplying, demand for various products also grew. In response, factories sprang up with the demand for even more workers. The working conditions for these workers were dangerous. Untrained workers were handling complicated new machinery, leading to many injuries. When one worker was injured, it was easy to find someone to replace them, rather than ensuring a continued livelihood for that person. Transportation was also necessary for both goods and people. Trains were a key way of transportation in and out of cities, but to power the trains required a lot of coal. To keep up with the demand for coal mines sprung up around London, especially in South Wales. The work environment was not any safer than the factories. Cave-ins were frequent and led to many deaths and injuries. Finally, trade was important with the growing wealth. One of the biggest trading companies was the East Indies Trading Company. Trading was a good job because London demanded many products from the traders. With all the new goods being traded and brought into London, the city and the country was becoming richer. Trade did have financial risks. If anything were to happen to you, your family would be left with no means of an income, and would be sent to prison for not being able to pay their debts, unless they were working. Looking only at these three professions, falling into debt was easy. If you were to get sick or injured on the job, you would quickly be replaced with no way to earn an income. Factory workers were easy to find because companies didn't care if they were trained or not, and with the growth of cities, people who needed work were easy to find. The same is true for mining. If you were injured, you couldn't work, and this led you to debt. And if you were killed in the mines, your family would be without income if they didn't have any other means of work. Trading with the East Indies Trading Company was a good profession during this time. Unless your boat sunk or something happened to you, like you got kidnapped or killed, you and your family were well off. And because trading was feeding England, working for trading companies like the British East India Company was good. But the company did run into trouble. For instance, when the famine in Bengal hit, there wasn't enough labor anymore and the company was going bankrupt. In this case, Parliament helped the company by allowing them to tax tea in the Americas. This helped the company avoid bankruptcy. It also was one of the reasons for the American Revolution. People who didn't work were in trouble. Debtors who couldn't pay their debts were sent to prison, and normally their families would go too. In Charles Dickens' book, Great Expectations, he mentions the Newgate Prison. The Newgate Prison held both debtors and criminals. It was built to hold 300 male convicts in one part, 100 debtors in another, and another area for 60 women. The jail sentence was severe for the debtors. They were either hung or transported to other prisons where survival was difficult. One other prison that was significant to Charles Dickens was the Marshalsea Prison. This prison was the smallest debtors' prison, and is where Charles Dickens' father was imprisoned because he couldn't pay off any of his debts. The end, and thank you for listening.